My parents always gave my golden child brother anything he wanted and pretended I didn't exist. So when they found out my company sold for $20 million, I got to return the favor. Growing up, they called him the future. I was just there. When he wanted guitar lessons, they hired a private instructor. When I asked for art supplies, Mom handed me printer paper and crayons from the junk drawer. His birthday parties had bounce houses and magicians. Mine were forgotten until the day after, then celebrated with gas station cupcakes. He got a BMW for his 16th birthday. I got a lecture about being grateful for the bus pass. His college was fully funded at an elite private school. I worked 3 jobs to afford community college and graduated with $47,000 in debt. When he dropped out junior year to pursue his DJ career, they bought him $30,000 worth of equipment. When I started my tech company from my studio apartment, Dad said, "At least someone in this family has to work a real job." My brother's DJ career lasted 8 months. Meanwhile, I was coding 18-hour days, living on ramen, building something from nothing. 5 years of failed pitches and maxed credit cards. But my software solved a real problem, and companies started noticing. Last month, a Fortune 500 company offered $20 million for my company. I was 32 and set for life. My brother saw the news article first. My phone exploded with messages. Mom texted, "We need to talk about family investments." Dad called, "We always knew you had potential." My brother, "I have this sick business idea. You in?" I let them stew for 3 days. They showed up at my new condo unannounced, the building where they'd once told the doorman I didn't belong. "We're so proud," Mom gushed, reaching for a hug I didn't return. Dad's eyes were calculating. "Family should invest in family." My brother grinned. "With your money and my connections, we could throw the sickest parties." I let them pitch their visions. Mom wanted house renovations. Dad needed business capital. My brother had 17 ideas, none involving actual work. When they stopped, I smiled. "I'm establishing a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Every penny beyond what I need." Dead silence. "You're giving it away?" Dad's face went red. "After everything we sacrificed?" Mom's voice cracked. "What did you sacrifice?" I asked calmly. "The birthday parties you forgot? The college fund you gave to him? The validation you reserved for your golden child?" My brother stepped forward. "Don't be petty. We're family." "You're right," I said. "And family should be there for each other, the way you were there for me." I handed Dad an envelope. Inside was printer paper with a crayon drawing, a stick figure standing alone. "That's my investment in your future, equivalent to what you invested in mine." I walked toward the elevator. Behind me, Mom sobbed, Dad shouted, my brother cursed. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. "Meeting confirmed for tomorrow. The investors are very interested in your story." But they weren't the only ones interested. As the elevator descended, I noticed a man in a dark suit watching from across the lobby. He didn't look away. He smiled and mouthed 2 words. "We'll talk." The elevator doors opened to the parking garage. Every light was out. My footsteps echoed in the darkness. The emergency exit signs cast red shadows across concrete pillars. I pulled out my phone for light, but the screen flickered and died. Battery was at 47% when I got in the elevator. "Don't bother," a voice said from behind a pillar. "The jammer has a 15-foot radius." The man in the dark suit stepped into view. Up close, I could see he was maybe 50, with silver hair and a scar running through his left eyebrow. His shoes were Italian leather, probably worth more than my first car. "Who are you?" I kept my distance, keys between my knuckles. "My name is Vincent Caruso. I represent a consortium of investors who are very interested in the technology you just sold." "I don't care who you represent. I'm not interested." He laughed, a sound like broken glass. "You misunderstand. We're not here to make you an offer. We're here because you sold something that doesn't belong to you." My blood went cold. "I built that software from scratch. Every line of code is mine." "Is it?" Vincent pulled out a tablet that somehow still worked despite the jammer. He showed me lines of code, my code, but interspersed were sections I'd never seen before. 3 years ago, you attended a conference in Austin. You had drinks with a man named Adrian Chen. He was very interested in your work. I remembered. A friendly guy. Claimed he was in venture capital. We'd talked about artificial intelligence and predictive algorithms. I'd been a few drinks in, excited someone was actually interested in what I was building. "You signed an NDA that night?" Vincent continued. "And you signed over partial intellectual property rights to any technology developed using the research you discussed." "That's insane. I never signed anything." "Your signature says otherwise." He showed me a document. My signature was at the bottom, slightly shakier than usual, but unmistakably mine. "You were drunk. Adrian was persuasive. And now my clients own 40% of your technology. Then sue me." "We could, but litigation is expensive and time-consuming. We prefer a more direct approach." He stepped closer. "You're going to transfer $8 million to an account I'll provide. Call it a licensing fee for the intellectual property you stole." "And if I don't?" Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then we go public with this. Your big sale gets invalidated. The company that bought you demands their money back. You're left with nothing but legal bills and a ruined reputation. Your scholarship fund disappears. And your family?" He paused. "Well, I noticed your parents and brother are suddenly very interested in your money. Imagine how they'll react when they find out you're broke again." The parking garage suddenly felt very small. "I need time to think. You have until tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'll be in touch with the account details." Vincent walked toward the stairwell. At the door, he turned back. "Oh, and don't bother going to the police. Adrian Chen doesn't exist. The signature on that NDA is real, but good luck proving who witnessed it." The lights flickered back on. My phone buzzed to life with 17 missed calls, all from my family. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing. $8 million. That would leave me with 12 minus taxes, minus the lawyers I'd need to hire, minus the investigation costs. And if Vincent was lying, if this was extortion, going public might be exactly what he wanted. The scandal alone could tank everything. My new condo felt like a hotel room. Furniture picked by the decorator. Art chosen by someone who charged $500 an hour for taste. I poured a drink I couldn't taste and stared at the city lights below. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Hey, it's me. A woman's voice familiar, but I couldn't place it. Don't say my name, they might be listening. Who is this? Lila, from community college. We had Calculus 2 together. The memory clicked. Lila Rodriguez. She'd sat next to me, always asking to borrow notes, always promising to pay me back for coffee. She'd dropped out sophomore year, said something about family problems. How did you get this number? I work in private security now, corporate investigations, and you're in serious trouble. How do you know about? Because I've been tracking Vincent Caruso for 3 years. He's a fixer for a group called the Archimedes Collective. They target tech entrepreneurs right after successful exits. The MO is always the same. Fabricated NDAs, pressure tactics, short deadlines. They're very good at what they do. I sat down hard. So the signature is fake? The signature is real. You signed it. But you signed a conference registration form at that Austin event. Adrian Chen got you drunk, slipped the NDA into the pile of paperwork, and you signed without reading. Classic con. Then I can fight this. You can try. But here's what you need to understand. The Archimedes Collective has unlimited resources. They've got lawyers who can drag out litigation for years. They've got media connections who can leak stories that tank your reputation. And they've got people like Vincent who make problems disappear. What do you suggest? Meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m., the coffee shop on Halstead and Webster. Come alone. Don't tell anyone where you're going. And bring copies of everything. The sale documents, your original code, anything related to that Austin conference. Why are you helping me? Lila's voice got quiet. Because they did this to my brother. He paid them. It destroyed him. He couldn't live with giving in to extortion. He killed himself 8 months later. The line went dead. I didn't sleep. By 4 a.m., I'd compiled every document related to my company's development. Bank statements, code repositories, emails, conference registrations. I'd built this company in public, documented every step on social media and tech blogs. If anyone had contributed to my work, there'd be a paper trail. At 6 a.m., my door buzzer rang, building security calling. Ms. Chen? The guard sounded nervous. I told you, that's not my name. Sorry. There's a woman here. Says she's your mother. She's pretty insistent. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. Tell her I'm not available. She's saying it's an emergency. Something about your father having a heart attack. I buzzed her up. If this was manipulation, it was the lowest they'd ever gone. Mom looked older than she had yesterday. Her makeup was smeared, her designer purse hanging at an odd angle. For a second, I almost believed her. Is he okay? I asked at the door, not letting her in. What? Oh, your father's fine. I needed you to let me in. So you lied about a heart attack. I needed to talk to you. She pushed past me into the condo. This place is beautiful. You could fit our entire house in here. What do you want, Mom? She turned and her eyes were calculating. I want to understand why you're being so cruel. We're your family. You were never my family. You were witnesses to my childhood. There's a difference. Don't be dramatic. So we focused more on your brother. He needed the support. You were always so independent. I was forced to be independent. There's a difference. Mom's face hardened. Fine. You want to play it this way? Your father and I have been discussing legal options. We supported you throughout your childhood. Gave you a home, food, education. We could argue we're entitled to compensation for that investment. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. You're going to sue me for raising me? Please do. I'd love to hear you explain to a judge why you deserve money for giving me expired cupcakes and bus passes. You're being irrational. The money has changed you. The money revealed you. There's a difference. She grabbed her purse. You're going to regret this. Family doesn't forget. Neither do I. After she left, I sat on my designer couch in my expensive condo and felt more alone than I had in my studio apartment. At least then, I'd known who I could trust. Now everyone wanted something. At 2 p.m., I walked into the coffee shop on Halstead and Webster. Lila sat in the back corner, laptop open, scanning the room like she expected trouble. She'd changed. The girl who couldn't afford her textbooks now wore expensive-looking tactical gear and had a scar running down her neck. Thanks for coming, she said, gesturing to the seat across from her. We don't have much time. They're probably watching you. Who? The Archimedes Collective? And your family. Lila pulled up security footage on her laptop. It showed my mother leaving my building this morning, then getting into a black sedan. In the front seat was Vincent Caruso. They've been in contact for 3 days, since the sale was announced. My stomach dropped. My mother is working with them? Your whole family is. Vincent approached your father first, offered him $2 million if they could pressure you into settling. They've been coordinating the guilt trips, the demands, everything. Your mother's emergency this morning was supposed to keep you distracted while Vincent's team accessed your legal files. My lawyer is fine. They couldn't get past your attorney's security, but they tried. Lila turned the laptop. Here's what we know. The Archimedes Collective operates through shell companies in 14 countries. They've extorted over $200 million from tech entrepreneurs in the past 5 years. The Adrian Chen identity is used repeatedly. Same conference, same drinks, same NDA trick. So how do I stop them? You can't. Not directly. Lila pulled out a flash drive. But I've spent 3 years building a case. Testimonies from 17 other victims. Financial records tracing the money. Evidence of forged documents and fabricated claims. Everything we need to take them down. Then go to the FBI. I have, 4 times. Each time the investigation gets killed from above. The collective has serious political connections. Senators, judges, people who make sure investigations disappear. So we're screwed. Not necessarily. Lila leaned forward. The media won't touch this either. Too much legal risk. But there's one avenue they can't control. Your platform. I don't have a platform. You do. Your company's sale was news. You've got business journalists who want to profile you. Tech podcasters who want interviews. You've got attention right now. And attention is power. You want me to go public. I want you to tell your story. The real story. How you built your company from nothing. The documentation you have proving every line of code is yours. The suspicious encounter with Adrian Chen. The threats from Vincent Caruso. The fabricated NDA. Make it personal. Make it compelling. Make it impossible to ignore. They'll destroy me. They'll try. But here's the thing about public attention. It makes it very hard to make people disappear quietly. And once your story is out there, 18 other victims have agreed to come forward with theirs. We create a wave they can't stop. And my family? Lila's face softened. I have evidence of their involvement with Vincent. If you want it. I thought about my mother's fake heart attack. My father's calculating eyes. My brother's complete lack of work ethic. The 20 years of birthday parties they forgot. Yeah, I said. I want it. The next 6 hours were a blur. Lila introduced me to an investigative journalist named Rebecca Park, who'd been tracking financial fraud in Silicon Valley. Rebecca had been trying to nail the Archimedes Collective for 2 years, but couldn't get past their legal firewalls. Your documentation is incredible, Rebecca said, scrolling through my files. You've essentially built an airtight case that you developed this technology independently. Every commit to your GitHub repository is timestamped. Every blog post about your progress is dated. You even have photos of your whiteboard with preliminary algorithms from 3 years before the Austin conference. I documented everything because I knew investors would question my timeline. It's perfect. And with Lila's evidence about the collective's pattern of behavior, we can make this the centerpiece of a major expose. But I need you to understand the blowback. This will get ugly. Uglier than being extorted for $8 million? Rebecca exchanged looks with Lila. Vincent Caruso doesn't lose gracefully. And your family is going to come after you hard. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the crayon drawing I'd given my father. The stick figure standing alone. I've been alone my whole life. I'm prepared. We worked until midnight. Rebecca crafted the story, pulling quotes from my interviews and weaving in the pattern of fraud. Lila provided sanitized evidence that couldn't be traced back to her sources. I wrote a personal essay about building a company while invisible to my own family. The article was scheduled to publish in 48 hours on a major tech news site. In the meantime, I had to face Vincent Caruso's deadline. At 5:30 p.m. the next day, I stood in the same parking garage. This time, the lights were on, and I wasn't alone. Lila waited in a car 3 spaces down, recording equipment running. Rebecca was on the phone, ready to publish early if anything went wrong. Vincent appeared at exactly 6 p.m. I admire punctuality, he said. Do you have the account transfer ready? I do. I pulled out my phone. But I have some questions first. I'm not here to negotiate. Humor me. How many people have you done this to? Vincent's smile was practiced. I have no idea what you're talking about. Adrian Chen, the Austin conference, the NDA trick. How many? You're wasting your deadline. Let me tell you what's going to happen instead. In approximately 6 minutes, one of the largest tech news sites in the country is publishing a story about the Archimedes Collective, about your pattern of extortion, about the fabricated documents and the threats, about the 18 other entrepreneurs you've victimized, and about my family's involvement in pressuring me to pay. Vincent's smile finally faltered. You're bluffing. Am I? I showed him my phone. Rebecca's article was live on the site, timestamp showing 6:04 p.m. It published early. His face went pale, then red. You just made a serious mistake. No, Vincent. You made the mistake 3 years ago when you targeted me. You thought I was alone, thought I was desperate enough to pay, thought I'd roll over like your other victims. I stepped closer. But I've been underestimated my whole life. I'm very good at surviving it. This won't stop us. We have resources you can't imagine. So do I. 18 victims are filing a joint lawsuit tomorrow. The SEC is launching an investigation. 3 senators are calling for hearings. And the FBI just got forwarded evidence they can't ignore from sources they can't intimidate. You're done. Vincent's hand moved toward his jacket. Lila was out of her car instantly, gun drawn. I wouldn't, she said calmly. Building security has been alerted. Police are 2 minutes out, and everything here is being recorded. Vincent froze, looked at me, looked at Lila. His hand slowly moved away from his jacket. You think you've won, he said quietly, but you have no idea who you're dealing with. Neither did you. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Vincent disappeared into the stairwell. By the time officers arrived, he was gone. The next 72 hours were chaos. Rebecca's article exploded across the internet. My story about the golden child and the forgotten daughter went viral, resonating with thousands of people who'd been overlooked by their family. The revelation about the Archimedes Collective's extortion scheme became a scandal that dominated tech news cycles. 18 entrepreneurs came forward with their stories. The pattern was unmistakable. Vincent Caruso and his associates had been operating for 6 years, targeting vulnerable founders right after successful exits. The total amount extorted was estimated at $347 million. The FBI had no choice but to investigate. The public pressure was too intense. Within days, they'd frozen accounts in 7 countries and issued warrants for 12 people, including Vincent Caruso and Adrian Chen, whose real name turned out to be Thomas Brennan. But the part that hurt most was my family. Rebecca's article included screenshots of text messages between my mother and Vincent, discussions about my personality, my weaknesses, the best ways to manipulate me. My father had provided financial information, trying to estimate my net worth. My brother had suggested various emotional pressure points they could exploit. They'd sold me out for $2 million. The internet was merciless. My mother's Instagram, the one where she posted about family values and unconditional love, was flooded with comments. Thousands of people calling her out, sharing their own stories of parental favoritism and betrayal. My father's business, already struggling, lost half its clients in a week. Nobody wanted to work with someone who'd conspired to extort his own daughter. My brother's DJ equipment was repossessed when they couldn't make payments. Turned out the $30,000 had been financed, not purchased outright. My parents had been counting on my money to bail them out. 3 weeks after Rebecca's article published, my mother called. "We need to talk," she said. "No hello, no apology." Why? Because this has gotten out of hand. The media is destroying us. Our lives are ruined because of you. Because of me? You could have just paid them. This didn't have to become a public spectacle. I almost laughed. You conspired with criminals to extort me, and you think I'm the problem? We needed the money. Your father's business is failing. Your brother has student loans. He dropped out of college. And you have more money than you could ever spend. We're family. You should have helped us. I was 11 years old when you forgot my birthday for the 3rd year in a row. I was 16 when I worked 3 jobs to pay for college while you bought my brother a BMW. I was 28 when I coded alone in a studio apartment while you told everyone I was wasting my life. I survived without your help for decades. You'll figure it out. You're a selfish, ungrateful... I hung up. My brother texted that night. "You know Mom's on antidepressants now because of you?" I blocked his number. My father's lawyer sent a letter threatening to sue for defamation. Rebecca's legal team responded with a countersuit for conspiracy to commit extortion. The letter stopped. It took 4 months for the criminal trials to begin. Vincent Caruso and 8 associates were charged with wire fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. The evidence Lila had compiled was damning. 18 victims testified. Financial records proved the money trail. The case was airtight. I attended every day of Vincent's trial. Sat in the back row watching him lie on the stand. Watched his expensive lawyers try to create reasonable doubt. Watched the jury see through every manipulation. When the verdict came back guilty on all counts, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just exhaustion. Vincent was sentenced to 15 years. His associates got between 8 and 12 years each. The Archimedes Collective was dismantled, their assets seized to compensate victims. I got a check for $8 million I never paid, plus damages. I donated it all to the scholarship fund. 6 months after the trial ended, I stood in a community college auditorium. The first batch of scholarship recipients sat in the front rows. 50 students who'd built something from nothing, who'd been overlooked and underestimated, who'd survived families that didn't believe in them. I started this fund, I told them, because I know what it's like to be invisible in your own home, to work 3 jobs while your sibling gets handed everything, to build something incredible while your parents call it a waste of time. The students nodded. Some were crying. They knew exactly what I meant. But here's what I learned. Being underestimated is actually a gift. Because while everyone's watching The Golden Child, you're free to work without their expectations weighing you down. You're free to fail and try again without an audience judging your every move. You're free to build something real instead of something designed to earn approval you're never going to get. A girl in the 3rd row raised her hand. But doesn't it still hurt, knowing they'll never be proud of you? Yes, I said honestly. Every single day. But you know what hurts more? Spending your whole life trying to earn love from people who aren't capable of giving it. So you build a different family. You find people who show up, who celebrate your wins, who believe in you even when you're coding in a studio apartment and eating ramen. Did you ever forgive them? A guy in the back asked. Your family? I paused. Thought about my mother's Instagram posts about being a devoted parent, my father's interviews claiming I'd abandoned them, my brother's podcast about being betrayed by a greedy sister. No, I said. And I'm okay with that. Forgiveness isn't mandatory. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is accept that some people will never understand what they took from you, and that's their loss, not yours. The applause was deafening. After the event, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 19, with nervous eyes and a scholarship folder clutched to her chest. Thank you, she whispered. My parents stopped talking to me when I got this scholarship. Said I was abandoning the family by going to college. I thought maybe I should give it up. Try to fix things with them. Don't, I said firmly. Go to college. Build your life. Succeed so loudly they can't ignore you. And when they come back, asking for money or favors or investment in their schemes, you remember this moment. You remember who showed up for you when it mattered. She hugged me, crying into my shoulder. I held this stranger, this girl I'd never met, and felt more connected to her than I'd ever felt to my own family. That night, I sat in my condo, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. An email from Lila. Adrian Chen, aka Thomas Brennan, was arrested in Bangkok. Extradition approved. He'll stand trial next month. We got them all. I typed back, thank you for everything. Her response was immediate. Thank you for having the courage to fight. My brother would be proud. I poured a drink, the good stuff this time, and raised a glass to the city below. To all the invisible kids, the overlooked daughters, the forgotten children who built empires from nothing, to everyone who survived families that treated them like property or problems or inconvenient truths. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? It's Rebecca. I'm working on a follow-up story about the Archimedes Collective, but I wanted to ask about something else. Your scholarship fund has received over 4,000 applications in 6 months. You're changing lives. How does that feel? I thought about the girl who'd hugged me today, about the 50 students in that auditorium who saw themselves in my story, about every kid working 3 jobs and eating ramen, building something while their families looked away. It feels like purpose, I said. For 32 years, I tried to matter to people who couldn't see me. Now I matter to people who understand exactly what that feels like. That's worth more than any inheritance or approval or family acceptance I never got. Can I quote that? Yes. Rebecca's follow-up article published 2 weeks later. It wasn't about the Archimedes Collective. It was about transformation, about taking your worst experiences and alchemying them into something that helps others, about how the scholarship fund had expanded to include mentorship programs and networking opportunities for first-generation college students. The applications tripled. My inbox flooded with stories. Thousands of people sharing their experiences of being overlooked, forgotten, dismissed, parents who'd drained college funds for the golden child, siblings who'd been given everything while they got nothing, families who'd shown up demanding money the moment success arrived. I read every single one, responded when I could, created resources for people trying to navigate toxic families and financial success, started a podcast interviewing other overlooked kids who'd built empires. The podcast became my favorite part of the work. Every week, I talked to another person who'd been invisible in their own home and had somehow turned that into fuel. A woman who'd been told she was too stupid for college and now ran a biotech firm. A man whose parents had called his art hobby a waste and now sold pieces for 6 figures. A non-binary entrepreneur whose family had rejected them and who'd built a tech company focused on inclusive design. Their stories weren't just about success. They were about survival, resilience, and the radical act of believing in yourself when nobody else does. One episode featured a woman named Diana who'd been cut off by her family at 16 for refusing an arranged marriage. She'd lived in her car, worked at gas stations, and eventually started a logistics company that employed 200 people. When her parents found out about her success, they'd shown up demanding she support them in their old age. What did you do? I asked on air. I said no, Diana replied. I told them that family is built through actions, not blood. And their actions showed me exactly who they were. Do you regret it? Never. The family I built, my employees, my friends, my partner, they show up. That's what matters. The episode went viral. Millions of downloads. Thousands of comments from people saying, this is exactly what I needed to hear. But not everyone appreciated the message. 3 months after Diana's episode aired, I received a legal letter from my parents. They were suing me for defamation, claiming my public statements had damaged their reputation and cost them business opportunities. Their lawyer was expensive. The lawsuit was professionally written. They were claiming $5 million in damages. I forwarded the letter to Rebecca, who published it in full. The internet exploded again. My parents were now suing their daughter for telling the truth about being neglected. The irony was not lost on anyone. My legal team filed a motion to dismiss, citing truth as an absolute defense to defamation. We included documentation of everything: the forgotten birthdays, the financial disparities, the text messages conspiring with Vincent Caruso. Every claim I'd made was backed by evidence. The judge dismissed the lawsuit within 30 days. This appears to be a continuation of the pattern of behavior the defendant has described, the ruling stated. The court finds no merit in the plaintiff's claims. My parents were ordered to pay my legal fees. They filed for bankruptcy the next month. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no relief. Just the quiet acceptance that some people never learn. My brother tried one more time, showed up at a podcast interview I was doing at a public venue, pushed his way past security, shouting about family loyalty and forgiveness. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd been handed everything and built nothing, who'd blamed everyone else for his failures, who'd conspired to extort his own sister and felt justified doing it. What do you want? I asked calmly. I want you to remember we're family. I want you to stop punishing us for not being perfect. I want you to help me. Why? Because I'm your brother. You were my brother. Past tense. You stopped being family when you sold information about me to criminals. You don't get to use that word anymore. Everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes are accidental. What you did was intentional. You saw an opportunity to profit off my pain, and you took it. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Security escorted him out. I finished the interview. Never mentioned him at all. 2 years after my company's sale, I stood in a different auditorium. This one was at Stanford, where I'd been invited to give a commencement speech. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd never graduated from a university like this. I'd barely survived community college. But the students weren't here for credentials. They were here because my story had given them permission to succeed despite their families, not because of them. Some of you grew up with parents who believed in you, I began, who sacrificed for your dreams and celebrated every success. To those students, I say, honor that. Never take it for granted. That support is precious and rare. I paused, looking across the sea of graduation caps. But some of you grew up invisible, with parents who poured everything into your sibling and forgot you existed, with families who called your dreams foolish and your ambitions selfish, with relatives who only appeared when you had something they wanted. The applause started before I finished the sentence. Thousands of students standing, recognizing themselves in my words. To those students, I say, you are not broken because your family couldn't love you. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not obligated to share your success with people who never shared your struggle. And you are not alone. More applause. Some students were crying. The world will tell you that family comes first, that blood is thicker than water, that you should forgive and forget and make peace. But I'm here to tell you something different. You get to choose your family. You get to decide who deserves access to your life. You get to protect the peace you fought so hard to build. Standing ovation. It lasted 5 minutes. But here's the most important thing. Being overlooked, being underestimated, being invisible in your own home doesn't have to destroy you. It can fuel you. Not in a bitter, vengeful way, but in a powerful, purposeful way. You can take that pain and transform it into something that helps the next invisible kid survive. I held up the scholarship fund statistics. In 2 years, this fund has helped 347 students attend college. Students whose families couldn't or wouldn't support them. Students who worked 3 jobs and lived on ramen. Students who built something from nothing because they had to. That's the real victory. Not the money I made or the family I cut off or the criminals I helped imprison. The real victory is that 347 people who felt invisible now have a fighting chance. The real victory is that their stories matter. The real victory is that we see each other. The applause was deafening. After the speech, hundreds of students lined up to talk to me, each one with a story, each one looking for permission to choose themselves over toxic families, each one carrying the weight of being overlooked. I stayed until midnight, listening to every single story. A young woman whose parents had drained her college fund to bail out her brother. A young man whose family had called him lazy despite his 4.0 GPA because he didn't want to join the family business. A student whose parents had shown up graduation day asking for money before congratulations. Each story was different. Each story was exactly the same. At 2 a.m., I finally made it back to my hotel. My phone had 127 messages, most from people sharing their stories, thanking me for giving them language for their experiences. But one message stood out, from an unknown number with a 415 area code. You probably don't remember me, but I was your TA in community college. I watched you work 3 jobs and still ace every exam. I always wondered what happened to you. Now I know. You're saving kids like you used to be. I'm proud of you. I stared at that message for 10 minutes. Someone had seen me. Even back then, when I felt completely invisible, someone had noticed. I texted back, "Thank you. That means more than you know." Their response, "You're doing the work that matters. Keep going." 3 years after the company sale, the scholarship fund had helped 1,000 students. I'd written a book about building a business while your family tears you down. The book became a bestseller. Not because of the business advice, but because of the emotional survival guide embedded in every chapter. Readers sent me photos of themselves with the book, usually with notes like, "First person in my family to read this," or "My parents said I'd never amount to anything," or "Thank you for seeing me." I framed every single photo. My condo walls were covered with faces of people who understood what it meant to be invisible. My brother tried to publish a tell-all book about growing up with a selfish sister who abandoned her family for money. He sold it as a cautionary tale about what happens when success destroys family bonds. The publisher dropped the book 2 weeks before release. Turns out, extensive fact-checking revealed that every major claim he made was either exaggerated or false. His manuscript had claimed I'd grown up privileged, that our parents had treated us equally, that I'd always been distant and cold. The evidence said otherwise. Birth certificates showing different hospital quality based on which child was born. Elementary school records showing my brother in private school while I attended public. Family photos where he was centered and I was cropped out. Financial records proving every claim I'd made about the BMW and the birthday parties and the college funds. My brother tried to sue the publisher for breach of contract. The publisher countersued for submitting fraudulent material. He lost, obviously. Ended up owing them $50,000 in legal fees. I heard about it through Rebecca, who was tracking the case for a follow-up article. "How do you feel about it?" she asked. "Tired," I admitted. "I'm just tired of them trying to rewrite history, tired of being painted as the villain in their story." "You know the truth," Rebecca said. "So does everyone else who is paying attention." "Yeah, but my brother will spend the rest of his life believing he's the victim. My parents will die thinking I'm the ungrateful daughter who destroyed the family, and nothing I say or do will change that." Does it need to? I thought about it. No, I guess it doesn't. Rebecca's article published with a new angle. Not about the lawsuit or my brother's failed book. About the impossibility of changing people who are committed to misunderstanding you. About the freedom that comes from accepting that some relationships are simply incompatible with your survival. The article resonated. Millions of views, thousands of people saying, "I needed to hear this." But the message that mattered most came from Diana, the woman who'd been on my podcast. "You gave me permission to stop explaining myself to people who will never understand. Thank you." That's when it clicked. I'd been trying to prove something to my family for 35 years. Prove I was worthy, prove I was successful, prove they'd been wrong about me. But they didn't care about proof. They cared about narrative. And in their narrative, I would always be the villain. I could live with that. 5 years after the company's sale, I sold another company. This one for $45 million. The news was public, unavoidable. I waited for my family's response. Nothing. No calls, no texts, no lawyers. Complete silence. At first, I thought it was strategy, a new manipulation tactic. But weeks passed, then months. Still nothing. Finally, I broke down and searched for them online. My mother's Instagram was gone. My father's business website was defunct. My brother's social media was private. I hired Lila, now running her own security firm, to do a basic background check. Not because I wanted to contact them. I just needed to know they weren't planning something. Her report arrived 3 days later. My father had remarried, moved to Arizona, and started a small consulting business. His new wife had 2 adult children who, according to public records, he treated very well. Birthday parties, college funds, the whole package. My mother had moved to Florida, living in a retirement community. She volunteered at a local library and, according to her online reviews, was beloved by the community. Such a kind woman, one review said, always asking about my kids and remembering their names. My brother had moved to Seattle, working as a sales manager at a furniture store. He'd gotten married, had a kid, coached Little League. His Facebook was filled with wholesome family photos. They'd moved on, built new lives where they were good people, good parents, good spouse, good community members, just not with me. I showed Lila the report. "How do you feel?" she asked. Confused, I admitted. They were capable of being good family members the whole time. They just chose not to be. Not with me. "Some people can only see certain people as fully human," Lila said gently. "It's not about you. It never was. Then why does it still hurt? Because you're human, and humans want to be loved by their parents. That doesn't go away just because they didn't deserve you." I filed the report away. Never contacted them. Never checked on them again. But I thought about it constantly. The fact that my father could show up for stepchildren when he'd never shown up for me. The fact that my mother could remember community kids' names when she'd forgotten my birthdays. The fact that my brother could be a present parent when he'd sold me out to criminals. They were capable. They'd just never seen me as worthy of that capability. A therapist once asked me, "What would it take for you to forgive them?" I thought about it for weeks. They'd have to acknowledge what they did, really acknowledge it. Not, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "mistakes were made," but "I chose to treat you as less important than your brother. I chose to forget your birthdays. I chose to conspire with criminals to extort you, and I was wrong. And if they did that, they won't, because that would require them to see themselves as capable of cruelty, and their entire identity is built on being good people who were victimized by an ungrateful daughter. So forgiveness isn't possible. Forgiveness isn't necessary," I corrected. "I don't need them to be sorry. I need to be free, and I am." 7 years after the company sale, I stood at another scholarship award ceremony. The fund had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We were now supporting 2,500 students annually, had expanded to include graduate programs, and had created a network of mentors who were all formerly overlooked kids who'd built empires. The evening's keynote speaker was Diana. She'd sold her logistics company for $120 million and immediately started her own foundation. "I learned from the best," she said, gesturing to me in the audience. "Someone who showed me that success isn't measured by the family you're born into, but by the family you choose and the people you help along the way." After her speech, we sat together in the green room. "Do you ever wonder if they're watching?" she asked. "If they see what you've built and regret how they treated you?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But then I remember it doesn't matter. They had a chance to be part of my life. They chose extortion instead. That tells me everything I need to know." Does the anger ever go away? The anger went away years ago. What's left is just sadness. Not for me, but for them. They could have had a daughter who loved them. Instead, they have a stranger who succeeded despite them. That's their loss. Diana nodded. "I used to think forgiveness meant going back, letting them in, pretending it never happened. But maybe forgiveness is just accepting that they are who they are, and I'm who I am, and those two things don't fit together." That's exactly it. We sat in comfortable silence, 2 women who'd been invisible in their own homes and had somehow found each other in that invisibility. My phone buzzed. A text from Lila. "Vincent Caruso died in prison. Heart attack. Thought you should know." I showed Diana the text. She read it, then looked at me. "How do you feel?" "Nothing," I said honestly. "He was just a symptom of the bigger problem. My family's willingness to sell me out. His death doesn't change that." "No," Diana agreed, "but it does mean justice, I guess." But later that night, alone in my condo, I did feel something. Relief. Not because Vincent was dead, but because a chapter was finally, truly closed. No more trials, no more appeals, no more chances for the Archimedes Collective to resurface. It was over. I poured a drink and toasted the city lights below. To every invisible kid who survived. To every overlooked daughter who built empires. To every person who chose themselves over toxic families. To me. 10 years after the company sale, I received an invitation to my father's funeral. He died of a stroke at 68. The invitation was formal, impersonal. No personal note, no acknowledgement of our history. Just a time, date, and location. I didn't go. Instead, I spent that afternoon with the scholarship recipients, talking about navigating family expectations and building lives on your own terms. One student asked if I ever regretted cutting off my family. "Never," I said. "But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. You can make the right choice and still feel pain. Those aren't mutually exclusive." "How do you know it was the right choice?" "Because my life is full of people who show up, who celebrate my wins, who support me through failures, who see me as fully human. That's what family should be, and I built it myself." My mother called 3 months after my father's funeral. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? It's me. Her voice was old, fragile. I know. Silence. Then, your father's estate was smaller than expected. There are debts. Your brother can't help. I hung up. She called back immediately. I blocked the number. My brother tried next. Email this time. Long, rambling, talking about family obligations and forgiveness, and the importance of taking care of elderly parents. He mentioned my father's debts, my mother's fixed income, the struggle to maintain her lifestyle. I deleted the email without responding. My brother's wife tried. Friendly, personable, explaining that she'd heard both sides of the story and understood my perspective. But surely I could see that holding grudges helped no one. She included photos of my nephew, a kid I'd never met, suggesting that family reconciliation would be good for the next generation. I looked at the photo. A 5-year-old with my brother's smile. A kid who'd grow up hearing about the rich aunt who abandoned the family. Another generation of narrative I couldn't control. I wrote back, I wish your son well, but I am not responsible for your husband's choices or their consequences. Your family emergency is not my obligation. She responded with Bible verses about forgiveness and honoring parents. I blocked her too. The attempts continued for 6 months. Friends of the family reaching out, distant cousins I'd never met, even my mother's neighbors, each one with the same message. Family is everything. Let go of the past. Your mother needs help. None of them asked why I'd cut contact. None of them wanted to hear about the forgotten birthdays or the extortion scheme or the lifetime of being invisible. They just wanted me to fix the problem my absence had created. I ignored every message. One night, Diana called. I heard your family's trying to contact you again. How did you hear that? Your brother tried to go through my foundation, said you'd listen to me, that we were friends. What did you tell him? I told him that friendship means respecting boundaries, not helping people violate them. Then I hung up. Thank you. Have you considered the nuclear option? Which is? Cease and desist. Legal document. Anyone who contacts you on their behalf faces legal consequences. I thought about it. It felt extreme, but so was hiring a network of people to wear me down. Send me the paperwork. 2 weeks later, my lawyer delivered cease and desist letters to my mother, brother, sister-in-law, and 12 people who'd contacted me on their behalf. The message was clear. Any further contact would result in legal action for harassment. The letters worked. The messages stopped. For 3 years, I heard nothing. Then, on my 45th birthday, a letter arrived. Physical mail, forwarded through my lawyer who'd screened it per our agreement. Inside was a single page, handwritten. I'm dying. Cancer. Maybe 6 months. I don't expect you to care. I don't expect you to come. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Not sorry things didn't work out. Sorry for who I was. Sorry for what I took from you. Sorry for making you believe you were invisible when you were extraordinary. You deserved better. I'm sorry I couldn't be better. I'm sorry I didn't try. Mom. I read it 17 times. Looking for manipulation, for hidden asks, for strategy. Found none. Just the shaky handwriting of someone who'd run out of time to lie. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw it away either. I put it in a drawer. This final acknowledgement of what had been stolen. My mother died 4 months later. I didn't attend the funeral, but I did send flowers. White roses, her favorite. The card said simply, I hope you found peace. My brother called after the funeral, left a voicemail. His voice was rough, exhausted. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm just asking you to understand that we were wrong. All of it. Every choice we made about you was wrong. And I'm sorry. Not because Mom died and I'm feeling sentimental, but because you deserved better siblings than me. You deserved better parents than them, and I'm sorry we couldn't be that for you. I listened to the voicemail 3 times, then deleted it. Not out of anger, but out of acceptance. His apology couldn't undo 30 years of being invisible. Couldn't erase the extortion scheme or the forgotten birthdays or the lifetime of being second choice. But it was something, an acknowledgement. A period at the end of a very long sentence. I called Diana. They apologized, both of them, after all these years. How do you feel? Sad. Not for them. For the relationship we could have had if they'd been capable of this honesty 20 years ago. Do you wish you'd reconciled before she died? No, because reconciliation would have required me to pretend the past didn't matter. And it did matter. It shaped everything I became. I can accept their apologies without forgiving them. I can acknowledge their regret without absolution. That's very evolved of you. Or I'm just too tired to be angry anymore. Diana laughed. Same thing. Now, at 47, I run 3 foundations. The original scholarship fund has helped 12,000 students. I've written 4 books. I'm financially secure for 3 lifetimes, and I'm surrounded by people who show up. People ask if I'm happy, if cutting off my family was worth it, if I ever regret the choice. The answer is complicated. I'm not happy in the way someone with a functional family is happy. I don't have cousins to call or parents to visit or siblings who know my history. I built my life from scratch, and there's a loneliness in that. A fundamental aloneness that never quite disappears. But I'm free. Free from manipulation, from obligation, from the exhausting work of trying to matter to people who couldn't see me. Free to build the life I want with people who choose me back. And that freedom is worth everything I lost. Worth every birthday they forgot. Every accomplishment they dismissed. Every moment they looked through me instead of at me. Because I see myself now. I see the scared kid working 3 jobs. I see the exhausted entrepreneur coding at 3 a.m. I see the woman who chose dignity over family approval. and I see the person I became when I finally stopped waiting for their validation. That person is enough. More than enough. Extraordinary, actually. And I didn't need them to believe it for it to be true. Last week, I received a letter from my nephew. He's 15 now, writing without his parents' knowledge. He found my address through the Scholarship Foundation website. The letter was heartbreaking in its honesty. My dad tells me you're selfish and cruel, but I found your book in the library. I found the articles about your company and your foundations. You're not what he said. I think maybe you're what I want to be. Someone who chose themselves. Is that selfish? Because it doesn't feel selfish. It feels like survival. I wrote back. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Your father's story about me is his truth. He needs me to be the villain because that narrative absolves him of responsibility. But you get to decide what you believe. And more importantly, you get to decide who you become. You're not your father's choices. You're your own person. Never forget that. We've been corresponding for 3 months now. He asks about building businesses, about standing up to family pressure, about what it means to be your own person. I answer honestly. I don't talk badly about his parents. I just tell him my story and let him draw his own conclusions. He's applying to colleges now. His parents want him to stay local, work in the family business, follow tradition. He wants to study computer science, build something of his own, create distance. They'll be angry, he wrote. They'll say I'm abandoning them like you did. I wrote back, let them be angry. Their anger is about their fear of losing control. It's not about you, and you're not abandoning them. You're choosing yourself. There's a difference. His response, I'm scared I'll regret it, that I'll end up alone like, sorry, that sounds harsh. It's not harsh, it's honest. And yes, I'm alone in some ways, but I'm also surrounded by people who genuinely love me. Not because they have to, not because of blood obligation, but because they choose to. That's better than being surrounded by people who treat you as invisible. Do you think I'm making the right choice? I think you're making your choice. And that's what matters. He applied to MIT, got in with a full scholarship, told his parents last week. According to his latest letter, it went about as well as expected. His father called him ungrateful. His mother cried. They pulled the guilt card, the family loyalty card, the after everything we've done for you card. He moved out, found a friend's place to stay until college starts, cut off contact with his parents until they can respect his choices. Does it get easier? He asked in his most recent letter. The guilt? I wrote back truthfully. No, it doesn't get easier, but you get stronger, strong enough to carry it. And eventually, you realize the guilt is theirs, not yours. They made choices that pushed you away. Their discomfort with consequences is not your responsibility to fix. His response. Thank you for being honest. Everyone else tells me it'll all work out, that families heal, but I don't think mine will. Some families don't, I wrote back. And that's okay. You get to build a new one person at a time, with people who show up. I put his letter in the drawer with my mother's apology. 2 pieces of paper representing 30 years of family dysfunction, and 1 kid brave enough to break the cycle. That night, I looked at my walls covered in photos of scholarship recipients. Thousands of faces, each one representing a kid who chose themselves over toxic families, each one building something beautiful from the rubble of being overlooked. This is my family now, not by blood, but by shared experience, by understanding what it costs to be invisible, and what it takes to survive it. And it's enough, more than enough. It's everything.